Okay, well, first of all, thanks for being here. My name is Mike Dardis, WLWT news anchor at Channel 5, and I just wanted to say the next couple nights I'm going to be here. And the reason I'm here, I won't make it long, I love Mason, I love this community, I love the schools. I moved here 12 years ago. My wife lived in northern Kentucky. She wasn't my wife then, she lived in northern Kentucky. And when I married her, she had been making fun of me for years that I'd been bragging about Mason. What's going on up there? Are the streets of gold? I mean, what are they giving away money? And then finally we got married and we moved up here, and almost weekly she turns to me and says, I love living in Mason. So what a great community. So what you're doing, it's a noble thing to run for this office and be a part of Mason schools, and the next couple days, everybody involved. It's just amazing. So first of all, I'd like to thank Matt Steele over there and Danny Timmets for being here this evening, for their interest in serving our schools. I'd like to thank our citizens who have joined us this evening, and for those of you tuning in right now, believe it or not, there are folks watching from the comfort of their homes, and that's a big thing because a lot of those folks are going to be involved in the voting process as they get an opportunity to evaluate which two candidates are going to be involved here. Desiree Batchy, by the way, had a conflict tonight, and she was unable to be here. So we have two of the three. Additional information on all the candidates, by the way, can be found on the Chamber website at madechamber.org, as well as on the Facebook page. And again, ICRC-TV is here filming the forum, and they're going to be broadcasting live on Facebook. Also a schedule of playback for watching on television, and it's going to be posted on the Mason Deerfield Chamber Facebook page and website. So times have changed, social media, live TV, the whole bit. So the format tonight, I know you were asking about it. It's going to begin with opening comments. Each candidate's going to have 2 minutes to start. We're going in alphabetical order. That was pretty easy. Then we're going to go through a series of questions. Each of you is going to have 60 seconds to respond unless otherwise specified. I think there's one or maybe two that we have 2 minutes to answer, but most of them are a minute. Once all the candidates have responded to the question, each candidate will have, there's only two candidates, will have the opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal. Moderator also reserves the right to follow up if I'd like. We're going to end the forum with a 1-minute closing statement from each of you. And there's going to be, let's do it, ready? 10-second time card warning when we get down to 10 seconds. And then when the time is up, you're going to hear, and it's not being rude. We just are playing by the same rules. So you know that if we're cutting you off, it's just that we've announced this ahead of time. So let's begin. Opening comments, candidates for Mason City School Board, beginning in alphabetical order. Mr. Steele, 2 minutes, and please include why you are running for this office. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'll just say my last name starting with S. It's weird to be going first in alphabetical order, but that's fine. Danny, you get to go second again, but that's okay. But good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here. Thank you to the Mason Deerfield Chamber for hosting another candidate forum. Mike, thank you for emceeing our discussion tonight. It's so important to have these kinds of conversations and let voters in the community know, who it is that's running to lead the schools and the city and the township here in the Mason area. So we really appreciate the opportunity. But for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Matt Steele. I have lived in Mason since 2009. I have 3 children with my wife, Carrie, who is a teacher in the Lakota School District. We have a 7th grade daughter named Ainsley, and we have twin boys named Ben and Griffin, who are 5th graders at Mason Intermediate School. I previously served on the Mason City School Board for 10 years, and it was one of the honors of my life to serve this amazing community in this district. And I'm really excited to be running again for the opportunity to serve this district again. In 2021, 2 years ago, the last cycle, I ran again for re-election, and sadly I did not win. I lost very narrowly. But my service to the district never stopped. The very next day after the election results came out, I was at a soccer game standing there supporting our students, and since that day, I've served the district relentlessly in a ton of different ways that we'll get to talk about tonight. One of those ways is I serve on the Mason Schools Foundation as vice president. I've also helped lead and shape our Journey to 2030 efforts as a community member, but also as one of the members of the design teams, working with teachers and administrators and community members to design what a Mason learner will look like in the year 2030 and what it looks like to get there. So I'm excited about this opportunity to talk with you all tonight, and I look forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Well, either way, we need to lobby Mr. Cooper about recruiting your wife over to this school district.
Yeah.
So,
Let's
all
have
right.
that happen before
We'll
January,
make-
so I don't have to recuse myself from a vote.
We'll make that happen. All right, we've got Miss Danny Timmets. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you all for being here. Thank you to the Maid Chamber for hosting this, my first forum. This is great. Thank you to everybody out there watching, and for those of you that took the time this evening to come and be with us as we have this conversation. I am Danny Timmets. I am a mother of 2 comets. I have a freshman at the high school named Olivia. I have a 7th grader at the middle school named Elise. I'm also married to a former comet. He graduated in '97 and has roots here in Mason. When we decided to find our forever home, we were looking for a place that would nurture our family in a way that matched our needs as far as what our personal interests were as parents and what we wanted for our children. And certainly we were drawn to these schools. We were drawn to the opportunities that were afforded to the kids that go to these schools. We were drawn to the amenities that exist in this community. So we landed in Mason about 10 years ago, and we've gone through the system with our youngest, our oldest started in kindergarten here. So we've been K through now freshman year, and we're learning about every building as we enter it, which has been phenomenal. For my background is in education. It's the reason I'm running, because we are in a very weird time in education right now, and I have 22 years working in a diverse set of experiences with education. I started my career as an elementary education teacher. I taught in a self-contained classroom at CPS down in Cincinnati, at Northside Independent School District in San Antonio, and then in Mount Healthy is where I ended my teaching career before I made the really difficult decision to leave the classroom and pursue my passion of educational technology. I found an opportunity to work in a nonprofit, which is where I've been for the last 12 years, and that job has evolved from come in and learn and teach people how to use this one management system to instructional design and being a sought-after curriculum developer. So I look forward to serving this community.
Well, the good news is this is not national politics, so we have no rebuttals so far for opening statements. So that's good. So now we have that format, though, moving forward. I'm going to ask a question. You each have a minute, and then we have a 30-second rebuttal. So here we go. We're going to begin with Ms. Timmets on this question. Skills needs have changed, and they continue to change for employers. What's the role of the school board in ensuring the district is preparing our youth with skills for the future workforce? Go ahead.
So our school board needs to be informed. We need to understand what these skills are from our workforce. So we're leaning into the experiential learning program that's happening at our district already is a great resource for our board members to understand the need, because our board members are the ones that decide yes or no, are we going to fund these things? So our curriculum needs to be completely infused with the soft skills, right? The collaboration, the cooperation, the communication that we need to be teaching so that our students can be agile in the workforce, so that they can learn to adapt. Because for our kindergartners right now, we actually don't know what their workforce looks like. Everything is changing so rapidly. We have to be able to make them agile and adaptable so that when they get to that workforce that we didn't even imagine for them, they're ready for it.
Same question, obviously.
Yeah, a very similar answer. So in Mason, we have had a history, a tradition of excellence in preparing students for college. And when students go to college from Mason, we hear time and time again that they are prepared for success in college. That's a very great thing. We're always going to have that. We're always going to have probably the majority of our families, looking forward to college for their students. But college isn't for everybody, and I think that that's even more true today with the value proposition of college. So the role of the board, to center it on the role of the board, is to stand behind the administration and give them the resources that they need and the support they need to have our system prepare students for careers, not just prepare students for college. So that includes experiential learning, getting kids experiences of things that they turn out to love, and it's their thing. Just as valuable, though, is to have an experience where they hate it. Somebody wants to be a doctor, but they faint at the sight of the blood. The first time that happens is that they're doing an internship at University Hospital. So providing those experiences, providing the resources to have those experiences is the role of the board member.
I'm sure there'll be other questions where we disagree a little bit more, but you do have a 30-second rebuttal if you want it. If you don't want it, that's fine too. We move on. Would you like to have your 30 seconds?
Sorry, newbie question. Can I add to?
Doesn't have to be a rebuttal.
It doesn't have to be a
Yeah,
rebuttal?
we're not, yeah, go ahead, 30 seconds. Yep.
Thank you. And thank you all for your grace on that question. I just want to say that I was sitting at the coffee with the superintendent and the brews with the superintendent just this last month. And both times different parents brought up the exact issue that Matt brought up, was that not all our students are college bound. And how are we preparing those students? And I was so pleased to come to the board meeting this last month and see that the experiential learning program was being highlighted and expanded upon.
Mr. Steele, do you want to add anything?
I think we'll have some of the things I want to address. I think we'll hit on other questions.
So you're good, okay. So back to you. You're going to have this first answer. Going to allow for a little bit more time. Here's one of the questions where we're going to give more time. 2 minutes to respond. With recent legislative changes to the state's Ed Choice Expansion Scholarship Program, very hot button issue as we know, every Ohio family is now eligible for financial aid to pay private school tuition. So, how do we feel about the school choice vouchers? How do you think they're going to impact the district enrollment and the school funding model moving forward? Mr. Steele?
So that is a hot button question, and I see that we leave more time for the hot button questions. Maybe we should reverse that. Let's go quickly through the hot button ones next time. But that said, so school choice is here to stay. That's what I think voters in Mason should understand and see in the landscape. And the Mason community has a tradition of valuing parent choice. So I always, as a board member, I wanted to be careful not to criticize the ability of a parent to choose what's best for their student, their child. That said, I think if we're going to have choice and have parents be able to make a choice about where their students end up being educated, I think that can be fair if there is comparable transparency and accountability, right? So the problem, as I see it, with the way Columbus is handling school choice, is that we're making money available for people to make the choice, but we're also not helping the community be good consumers and good choosers, right? Having the information they need to make good choices about what is best, what is the best educational environment. So transparency on testing, transparency on the funding model. Where is the money going? Where is it coming from? How much are we putting towards this? But also, that said, the question about how it affects enrollment in Mason, we'll see. I mean, we do have a tradition of a lot of families sending their children to private school here in Mason. They love the community, but they send their children to private school. So a lot of the funds, I think, in communities like ours may tend to go to folks who are already choosing to send their children to private school. But again, with choice here to stay and us supporting choice, we want to make Mason a destination district for our teachers, but also for our students. We want to make sure that this is a place that, when given the choice, people will choose to have their children educated here in Mason, because we think that we have the best thing going for education. Thanks.
Thank you. Your turn.
So first of all, public schools are not reporting an enrollment decline right now based on the vouchers. That is not really affecting enrollment at this point. So what we are seeing, however, is an increase in the number of requested vouchers. In 2022, 2023, we put out about 24,000 vouchers. There have been over 3 times that requested from the state already by September 14th. The state is seeing over between 900 and 1,000 requests for vouchers, and we are not seeing a decline in enrollment. What that tells me is these people aren't choosing to leave our schools to go to private schools. They're taking the money to keep doing the thing they were already choosing to do. So the reason I say all that is to say that right now we are over budget on this project already. We are funding it out of a rainy day fund that I am concerned about. I'm concerned that if we don't pay attention to the funding that's going into this project, the rainy day fund's going to run out, and I'm not sure where that money's going to come from. So does that bleed back into our taxpayer funds? Does that end up becoming a levy for our district that was decided on at the state, and now we have to fund our programs because we also have to pay for these vouchers? The other thing that I will point out that Matt alluded to is the transparency in the private schools. I have worked for some amazing private schools, and this is not a slam on private schools, but they do not follow the same rules that a public school does. So if we're sending public tax dollars to a private school that doesn't have to take in students with special needs, that doesn't have to take in students that are that have behavior challenges, that doesn't have to take in students that are I said special needs, right? Special needs, I only have two. When they don't have to take in all the students, they can stack their deck. And what that means for us is we do have to take everybody, and we welcome them in here, but we need to make sure that if I'm sending tax dollars to a school, that they're playing by the same rules that we are here at public school.
Thank you, Ms. Timmons. You have 30 if you want to use it. Do you have anything else you want to add, or do you want to rebut anything she said?
Definitely not rebut. Yeah, I'll pass my time.
And
I'm good.
You're good. Okay. So we move on. We go back to Ms. Timmons here first. The question's going to allow 60 seconds.
Okay.
Mason City Schools went through an extensive process to take steps toward giving all students an educational experience that gets them ready to be lifelong learners, academically prepared and prepared for life today and tomorrow. Did you participate in the recent Portrait of a Learner program hosted by the district? If yes, what did you learn through that experience?
So I was unable to participate in the Portrait of a Learner, but I'm very familiar with the process. I was really pleased to see the way that they engaged the community with this in this process. The things that came out of this, the skills that students that they are focusing on for our students, empathy and adaptability and critical thinking and integrity and communication, are all the things that we talked about a minute ago as far as workforce preparation. We want our students to be ready, and we want them to be good citizens, and that is our job as educators. It's our job as school staff and teachers. This is something that should be incorporated. I know Mason is doing this. We are doing this to incorporate it across curriculum, K-12, so that these skills are being taught in kindergarten in a way that we can scaffold them and build upon them in first grade, and then in second grade, and then in third grade. So by the time they get up to 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grades, they've already got a good basis for the language, the information, and the way they should be behaving in society. Sorry.
That's all right. We're here all night. Mr. Steele, Portrait of a Learner, yes or no, did you participate?
I did participate, yeah. So, and as I mentioned in my opening, the Portrait of a Learner is part of the Journey to 2030 work that we've done too. This is one of the outcomes of that work. And so when I was on the school board before, I actually, along with other board members, supported that process of starting the Journey to 2030. And so as a board member, I supported it. As somebody after my initial time on the board, I worked with the administration, like I mentioned, on helping shape how those conversations might go on the Portrait of a Learner effort. And then I wasn't able to attend every one of the sessions due to conflicts, but I was a part of the design team, just like I said, sitting next to teachers and students and community members. And with my Mason Schools Foundation hat too, helped champion. There was an opportunity to do some design work, true design work on the kind of the logo, and so we had an opportunity to award students for their efforts on actually doing some design work for the process. So supported in a lot of different ways. I'll take another opportunity later to talk about what I learned through that experience.
Do you want to use your 30? This is really nice tonight, isn't it? And you're good?
I'm good.
Okay. I have a feeling tomorrow night's going to maybe be a little bit different. At least it was a couple years ago, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm going to start with Mr. Steele. They had it in a different order, but I want to make sure I alternate here. So we're going to begin with Mr. Steele. Allow for 60 seconds. What do you believe is the most pressing issue right now of Mason City Schools? And what would your role be in addressing the issue?
I think, it's certainly not any of the hot button national headline things. So I think you'll be glad to hear that neither of us are going to point to any of those things. I think the most pressing thing is part of this journey to 2030. What does education look like? What is the true need of what we need to do to prepare a learner for life? So we, like I mentioned earlier, we have had a really big focus on excellence, and we have had a lot of achievement in our district. We will always have achievement. We will always look for achievement, but that's not all that we're here to do. So preparing students for a life of knowing themselves as learners. I mean, think back to when you were 18, did you know exactly what you wanted to do with your life? There are probably some who did. I certainly did not. But preparing our students to know themselves, know how they tick as a learner, and equipping them with the skills to figure out what they want to do with their lives, and then to be able to cope with what comes to them. That, I think, is the most pressing issue from a mental wellness standpoint, but also preparing for their futures and to shape the world. So,
thank you, Ms. Timmons. Biggest issue, Mason City Schools And what would you do to take care of it and handle it?
So throughout this campaign, I've done a lot of events where I've sat down at small tables in backyards talking to a lot of people. And the issues span all kinds of topics: preschool lottery systems and bullying and school safety and how do I report an issue that's happening in a classroom? And the nugget that boils to the top that brings all those things together is that the people don't have the information that they need all the time. We are in a very big district. We have a lot of moving parts, and we have really good infrastructure around our communication. But for some reason, there are still people in our midst that don't get all the messaging. I was so surprised to hear of parents telling me that they didn't understand they could use the Safe Schools tip line for any event that they felt like was bullying and harassment. And that's been publicized. I've seen it, but they didn't. And the fact that's a miss means that we need to be listening to our community, talking to lots of people, and making sure that they're hearing our messages the way that we intend them to get them.
We both okay to move on? Okay. So actually, we're going to start with you, Ms. Timmons, on this one.
Okay.
A lot of businesses, obviously, large and small here in the Mason area.
Sure.
And a lot of businesses and families cite schools as a main reason for choosing Mason. I would raise my hand on that one. It's one of the reasons I researched. I decided I wanted to live in Mason. What would you do? How would you demonstrate your support of keeping strong school and business relationships?
The schools are why we're here too. I mentioned that in my opening, and it is truly one of the reasons we showed up here in Mason and decided to raise our family here. I think it's such an important piece for the city and the schools to work together. And I know there's such a good partnership. I was talking to Dr. Cooper at one of the events recently, and he said that the city is a really good partner, one of our best partners. And I just thought that was such a good statement to be able to say, we're working together to ensure that the businesses that are coming in are being partnered up with our students and our families. I was sitting, I don't want to harp on the experiential learning thing, but that happened at the board meeting, and they're building partnerships and internships with local businesses to keep our students engaged in the businesses that are here and thriving, and keep our businesses engaged in what the school is doing, just solidifying that partnership. So as a board member, that's something I will push to continue. I think that's a fantastic thing for our schools, and it's great for our city as well.
Mr. Steele?
Yeah, I too came here for the schools. I mean, my wife came here first. She came here for the schools. I came for the schools, wanted us to live here. I think that's true for many folks who live in Mason. I think I hope people understand what a great partnership we do have with the city, like Danny mentioned. I mean, when it comes to economic development, we're in a good place when the city understands that the biggest selling point to bring a business or bring a company to Mason from some other place is the schools, right? That is what's going to attract the talent that they need to be successful and for this to be a good place for them. And so even when the city takes some big shots at trying to land somebody and we have to work out a tax increment financing or tax break deal or something, the city is a great partner in helping make sure that the schools are made whole through payments in lieu of taxes arrangements with businesses. That's so important. And so during my time on the board, I've demonstrated that valuing that partnership with the city in attracting business, but also in partnering with local businesses in helping inform back to the city or back to the schools, but also informing what's happening in the schools for the businesses.
No rebuttals? Are we good?
Do you want to rebut your own answer?
Yeah, I would like I stopped, so I'll stop.
I was just going to say, we're way ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because we're not using rebuttals. So I'm just going to take this moment to throw something out there. And this is not a gotcha or anything like that, I promise. But I think we can all agree the last 5 to 7 years, Mason's been an incredible school district for a long time, but Mr. Cooper jumped into the fray here, and he's done an amazing job. And one of the things we see on social media all the time is #MasonMoment. So that's where I'm going on this, and I just want to know, is there, however long, you talk about how long you've been in this district as a parent, and is there one that stands out? Is there a Mason moment that stands out over the others, or something that just makes you so proud of the Mason School District when you're bragging to a friend or a family member or on the phone with somebody, this is where my kids go to school? Would anybody like to talk about a Mason moment that they've had over the years?
Yeah, I think probably a seminal Mason moment for me was during COVID. I think one of the things that I'm most proud of as a leader in this district during my time on the board was that we took a stance of staying open until it was unsafe to be open during COVID. And the culmination of that, I think, and the culmination of our community coming together, our staff, our families, our students, certainly was graduation 2020. There was just something incredible about going door to door, delivering diplomas to students and families, and seeing, but even more importantly, I think that got me teary back that I remember was all of the work that our various different parts of the staff put into making that happen and making that a Mason moment for all of our families. And I was always most struck by our bus staff, the way they decorated the buses so that they had, the mortar board on each bus and all of our heads on the windows. It was a little embarrassing driving around town, but that was certainly a Mason moment that will always stick out.
My son graduated that year, and I thought it was great. And I also thought, man, it'd be great. There's 900 and some names to read every year at graduation. It'd be great if we could do this every year. But I've gone back since with another kid, and that's fun too.
Yeah.
Mason moment for you, is there one that stands out over others?
Yeah, hearing Matt talk, it's really any time I see the community come together around our schools. So when you were talking about the COVID shutdown in 2021, my children stayed online. And watching the online parents band together to figure it out and work with the teachers and work with the staff to make the experience as not just impactful for our students and educational for our students, but also as easy for our teachers too. There were parents that were setting up groups. I worked with a bunch of parents to organize like weekly calls so that we could talk with the other parents and make sure that they were informed about things that had to do with online learning. I'm an online learning specialist. I jumped in as soon as COVID started, and so that parents had access to some resources while the schools were kind of figuring out what remote learning looks like. And I think anytime I can see the community come together is a Mason moment for me. I will say really, really quickly though, until he said COVID, my gut reaction was cross country. And if anyone's involved in the cross country program and has seen those kids come across the finish line and then cheer each other on and watch everybody's parents chasing everybody else's kids and taking pictures, you have not experienced a Mason moment until you have seen just the amount of support that all those kids get when they're running. So that was my first one, but coming together and stuff was good too.
And I haven't been close. I haven't been close to the program, but the coaching in that program is just obviously
unbelievable.
It is amazing. So before we get to closings, is there anything we didn't touch on, an issue, a topic, anything you'd like to add? You'd have a minute to do that before we go with your final, if you want to, or you think we're good.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, there's some. I'm trying to think of the ones we might not have covered.
Well, take your time. This is very informal, and whatever you have a minute once you decide.
Yeah, I'll just say, yeah, are we starting a minute to do a new question or?
Well, no, when we do closings, we'll get a minute too, but if you have something you'd like to add, we can just add it right now.
Okay, yeah, I'll just say that, I joined the board in 2011, right after a levy defeat, and we had to make tough decisions about finances because the community resoundingly, said no. We're at that time. It wasn't at the right time. We had to make tough decisions. We had to even cut staff. We had closed a building. But by the time I left the end of my 10 years on the board, we were in a position where we were making key investments in really important things, including our mental wellness efforts and our diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm really proud that in that 10 years, we were able to make that change and listen to our community too about things like class size. We were able to invest in our youngest grades and tick class sizes back down a little bit. So I was trying to weave that experience and that reflection into one of my answers, and we didn't have the chance. So
good. I'm glad you did that.
Chance that time.
Ms. Timmons, do you have anything else you want to add before closings?
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion because I think it's important. There was a question I had talked about, and you mentioned the DEI committee that we have going on. And I think, and the only reason I bring it up in this particular setting is because in this campaign, what I've heard from parents is not all the parents are feeling heard. I've talked to parents of all backgrounds, and as much as we bring them in and we celebrate their culture and we have these events, which is great, it is very successful, they're not all feeling heard, and I feel like we need a better mechanism to listen to every parent. We have a DEI committee. From what I understand, it is invite only. So it's not open to every single person that might want to be part of it. And I think that is a miss. I feel like we need to have anybody that wants to lend their voice to make our schools better. We should allow them in, and we want to hear that from them. And I think that, to me, is what makes Mason the place that it is. It's what makes me proud to be here. And I think that is a place that we can continue to work towards and make better in our district. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention it this evening.
And I'm just glad that we're not covering school board meetings like we are in other districts on a regular basis in the
Sure.
news. We keep it civil here in Mason, that's for sure. We're going to start with you, Ms. Timmons, closing statement, if you'd like, 60 seconds, and then we'll go to Mr. Steele next. Thanks in advance for everything, and then we'll have a follow-up message. But go ahead, 60 seconds.
Fabulous. Well, thank you all for listening to us go banter back and forth. I appreciate this opportunity to share more about myself, my campaign, and the things that I am looking forward to do once I am on the school board. This campaign is a trailer for the work that I'm going to do as a board member. This is your preview. I am out there doing the work. I am coming to the board meetings. I'm posting the messages so that you guys know what's going on in the community. I am out there talking to the community, and it is exactly what I will do as a board member. My experience in the past as a preschool board chairperson, as a member of my church guiding team, as a member of my church leadership team, that's the leader I am, and I plan to bring that to the Mason City School Board. I am excited to dive deep into this work. I'm excited to dream big with our administrators, our board members, and our community, and I can't wait to see what the journey to 2030 holds for us. Thank you so much, you guys.
Well, thank you so much to both of you. I really appreciate hearing your ideas. Thanks to the candidates for joining us, the dedication.
Matt needs to talk.
See, that wasn't on my news rundown. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
That was my fault. I got ahead of myself.
Prompter.
So you get, yeah, very good.
'Cause I'm the last
I don't
one
use the
after.
prompter all the time, but this
No.
time I probably needed one. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, I'll just say, kind of wrap up. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak directly to voters here in Mason. Thank you for hosting us. I didn't bring my prop. I'm lamenting that fact, but the message I think that I would like to leave with the voters is that a vote for Matt Steele is a vote for a proven and engaged leader in the community. When we hired Jonathan Cooper as our superintendent, not long after that, he started the vision of the three big rocks, like focusing the biggest work of the district and holding true to that over time. And when that was launched, everybody got a rock. Everybody in the district, every staff member, every bus driver, every custodian, every single person in the district, including board members, if they were there, and I don't think all were there, but got a rock, and you were to write down one word that would guide your work, at least for that year. And I remember writing down the word engage, and that's what's guided my work in the district, whether I'm on the school board, Mason Schools Foundation, or serving in other ways, is being engaged in the work and with the people who are doing the work. And so that's what you'll get when you vote for me.
Sometimes on a light night, we cut the sports guy out. You know I didn't mean to do that to you,
No,
so,
no.
all right. All right.
No worries.
So now I can say thank you to both of you for being here, your dedication and your willingness to serve our schools and community. The Chamber would also like to thank Hubert Flagel, who sponsors the Chamber's advocacy programs and makes events like tonight possible. Just a reminder again to you folks out there in the community, the forum's available through ICRC-TV and Made Chamber's website and Facebook pages. We encourage the community to get out and vote. Of course, it's November 7th. So here's what we're going to do, a little stage change up, and we invite the candidates for Deerfield Township Board of Trustees to join us and make their way to the stage. Thank you again to both of you, and good luck.
Thank you.
All right. for the next 30 or 40 minutes. We just want people who are voting to get a chance to meet you and hear a little bit about you and what you believe in, and no pressure, and it's not going to be this strict kind of thing. We have some time commitments and things that we're going to go over here in a second, but again, thank you so much for being here. So this is the Deerfield Township Board of Trustees Candidate Forum. On behalf of the Mason Deerfield Chamber, we would like to thank Mason City Schools for hosting the event in a nice room like this that's equipped for ICRC-TV. So we appreciate that. My name is Mike Dardis. I'm a news anchor at WLWT Channel 5. I mentioned it to the folks who were here before, but I love the Mason Deerfield area. I grew up in the Northeast, but I was out on the West Coast for a job when I was offered the opportunity to come to Cincinnati, and I researched the area extensively. Anderson Township and Mason and all over, and northern Kentucky, and it came down to the schools and the area and the business and opportunity in this area. So I really love it here, and that's why I'm here. When they asked me to do this, it was a no-brainer. I'd like to be involved when I can, and I can fit it into the schedule. So I just want to make sure I have your name is pronounced correctly, so and I apologize if I don't, but I'd like to thank tonight Nabila Baber,
Yes.
is that correct? And Lel Lutz-Heading for being here this evening and for their interest in serving our community. So also thanks to our citizens who have joined us this evening, and for people tuning in from their own homes in the comfort of their homes tonight, watching on ICRC-TV. Additional information on the candidates can be found on the Chamber's website at madechamber.org, as well as the Facebook page. Also would like to thank again ICRC-TV here filming the forum and also broadcasting live on Facebook. Format tonight, here we go. We're going to begin with opening statements. That's easy. Each candidate has 2 minutes, starting in alphabetical order. Then we're going to go through a series of questions, and when we get to those, 60 seconds. When we get down to the final 10 seconds, we're going to see one of those. And then when we run out of time, we're going to hear one of those. So just so you know ahead of time, we're doing that, and we're not being rude and just cutting one of you off. That's just the rule for this debate or this session tonight. And I reserve the right to jump in there and ask follow-up questions if I'd like to. We're going to end the forum with 1-minute closing statements from each candidate. And again, the 10-second warning and the bell. So let's begin with opening comments with our candidates for Deerfield Township Board of Trustees. Beginning again in alphabetical order, Ms. Baber, you go first. You have 60 seconds.
Well, thank you for hosting this event. So I am Nabila Baber. I'm a physician, and I've been practicing in this area for the last 30 years, and I've actually lived in this area. Deerfield basically grew in front of me. And so I feel that as a doctor, my job is pretty unique. I have to learn science and then apply it to the humans, and that makes it very, very special in a lot of ways. I'm also an educator. I volunteer to teach doctors in training and medical students also, so it gives me a lot of insight into different aspects of human behavior. I've seen a lot of irregularities and inconsistencies in the system, and I believe that a lot of these exist in systems outside of medicine also. And I just think that my in-depth analysis makes me want to do more than what I can do in a doctor's office only, and that's why I am extending my role to a more bigger public office. I did run for a county commissioner last year, but I did not win. But I'm very dedicated, and I want to pursue my passion. So I do have a vision for a township. Look, I am very big about preservation of our parks and our green space, especially as we have more and more construction coming into our area. I want to bring science into a lot of aspects of our township handling of things, including saving the planet at our own local level. I believe that we can educate our community in helping a lot of measures, especially with recycling, composting, and I also believe that we need to celebrate the faith of our minorities and invest and make them included in our community.
Thank you. Would you prefer Ms. Lutz Heading or Ms. Heading?
Miss Heading,
Okay.
that's fine, thank you.
Okay. So go ahead, you have a minute.
Thank you so much, Maid Chamber. Thank you for putting this on. It's been a minute since I've been here. Thank you, Mason High School, for hosting us in this fabulous room. Mr. Dardis, you're always a pleasure to work with. My name is Lutz Heading. The community will know me from the days of working to save Kingswood Park as a community activist. In 2017, the Board of Trustees had plans to develop a 100-acre park in Deerfield Township, and I started to get very interested in local government around that time. I didn't really pay attention until then, and a lot of people really don't pay attention until it hits them in their backyard. So I showed up at that meeting. A lot of people showed up at those meetings, and for a year, we just worked together as a community. We were organically growing our own community. Without running for office, we had people in the community finding each other because we had a passion to have a voice in local government. We had a passion to save green space, and we had a passion to get to know each other more, something that we were missing here in Deerfield, and we didn't even know it. So in 2017, when I ran for office and I won, it was not something I had dreamt of doing. I did it because it needed to be done. We needed transparency in local government. We needed to have a voice at the table with local government, and we needed to make a difference as a community. So that's what I've done for the past 6 years. I've never stopped engaging with the community, not just the Kingswood Park community. I mean the community. I don't say no to anything. When I'm asked to show up, I show up. When I'm asked to speak, I speak. When I'm asked to go to somebody's backyard and look at a stormwater problem, I'm there. I was at a meeting earlier tonight. Thank you for holding this meeting for me, Sherry. I know that I was the holdup here tonight because I don't say no to anything. The community is where my heart is at. Serving the community is where my heart is at. And Deerfield, we've seen it grow. We've seen it become what it is because I've listened to the public. I know that the public is the best bet for what makes their life work here in Deerfield. I listen and I act.
Thank you. So from here on out, we'll in most cases, we'll have 60 seconds for an answer, 30 seconds for a rebuttal. If you have something you forget to add and it's not a rebuttal, that's fine. We'll give you the 30 seconds anyway. The bottom line is we want to hear as much from you tonight and get to know you as much as we can. The voters would like that. So here we go. And this time we're going to start on the other side with Ms. Heading. Within Warren County, Mason, and Deerfield, the two largest drivers of growth are Mason and Deerfield Township. To maintain that strong positioning, what is one specific example of a way that you would demonstrate your support of regionalism within the city of Mason and the Mason-Deerfield Chamber, and how would you achieve it if you were voted in your term?
So regionalism kind of comes organically here in Deerfield Mason. Have you noticed that people don't really know if they're in Deerfield or Mason a lot of the time? I go into many stores in Deerfield and it says Mason. So regionalism is a thing here that we take seriously, primarily because our township really has a great pride in being Deerfield Township. And we love the region and we love the Mason-Deerfield region. So for us, working together with the chamber, which I know, I think has taken great strides to help us get our Deerfield name brand into the market more. We share a zip code with Mason, so it becomes Mason a lot of the times, but to Deerfield residents, it's important to be Deerfield. Regionalism can happen organically like that. What benefits Deerfield when a business goes up also benefits Mason. And regionally, we work with partners at the county level to get work done, from finding jobs to bringing people into our community. So regionalism is much bigger than Mason-Deerfield, although there couldn't be a more important partner to Deerfield than Mason. Ask our residents. They don't know where they are sometimes, Mason or Deerfield.
Ms. Bobber, you have 60 seconds. Same question.
So I also agree with maintaining open communication and collaboration with Mason, and also appreciate the Maid Chamber, and I support the community that way. I also feel that, again, going back to my medical background, that we also have a lot of responsibility in exploring some of the mental health challenges that may face our Mason-Deerfield regional community, including in our employees, families, and in the community. And it hasn't been discussed in decades, so I want to bring that aspect to our regionalism. And I believe that as a physician, I've solved a lot of problems and invested myself in problem solving, and I will continue to do so at a regional level also.
If you want the 30 seconds, you can have it, or would you like to move on? It's totally up to you.
Well, I think it's important to realize that regionalism is bigger than Deerfield Mason, but for us here in Deerfield, having our economic development director as a member of the Maid Chamber is really important. The Maid Chamber knows if at any point there is a issue with a Deerfield business that they can pick up the phone and call us and we will be there. I also think the collaboration with the Chamber has gotten stronger over the last few years, so I look forward to exploring that more in the upcoming term.
On this topic, Ms. Bobber, is there anything you'd like to add in 30 seconds?
I don't.
You're good? Okay. We'll start with you, though, on the next one, which is, unfortunately, as we know, tax dollars, they're finite resource. So with that in mind, budgets are important. What are the top 3 budget priorities for Deerfield Township over the next 4 years if you are involved?
Okay. So basically, we do have to be very fiscally responsible, and we have to make changes based on the times. Like at certain times, we have to invest more in certain issues like what we did in COVID a few years ago. We need to invest in our infrastructure, including transportation, and work on our maintenance of our parks and green spaces and maintain and expand them efficiently.
Thank you. What about budget, top 3 priorities for you over the next 4 years in the township?
Well, top priority always has to be keeping taxes as low as possible. We are a service organization. We are very aware that we use taxpayer dollars to service our community. So we are very fiscally conservative with what we spend and how we budget. In Deerfield, we have a unique way of looking at our tax dollars. We budget out for 10 years worth of allotments, so we know what's coming, how we're using our dollars, and when we're using them. So one thing is we want to keep our taxes as low as possible. Another thing we've done in Deerfield that's new over the last 6 years is that our fiscal officer is investing money to make money. This is the first time we've done this here in the township, and we're making money that we can put directly back into the township. It's a very big deal to get free money by investing money into safe funds. And then the third thing I would say is that we are always looking for grants. We never rely solely on property taxes or levies to fund anything we're doing in the township. It is very important to have a strong program looking to grant money.
Would you like to use your 30 seconds, or would you like to move on?
I think we can move on.
And obviously, you just did 60. You're good. So this time we're going to start with Ms. Heading. Each of you have 60 seconds here, and then a 30-second rebuttal if you'd like. With the current economic conditions, decreased funding available from the state, obviously, money is very important as it relates to funding law enforcement, fire safety, and other important priorities like that. What would you do? How would you approach the development of the sustainable funding that would be needed for something, like those first responders and things of that nature? Go ahead.
Well, our sheriff's fund is strong and will be strong from now until eternity. And our fire fund, we have managed to stretch out and stretch out and stretch out and stretch out. We are probably a few years away from needing to run a fire levy, but as emergency services are the #1 thing that the township must do for the public safety, this is something that we've continued to discuss. Now, 6 years ago, I was told as soon as I took office, we need to run a fire levy right now, like tomorrow, like yesterday, let's get it done. And here we are 6 years later, stretching that out. And we're also very aware that without knowing and not being able to forecast exactly what the future looks like, that if we need to cut back on expenditures, that we can cut back on expenditures. If not, they're budgeted. And with the crisis right now going on with trying to get vehicles even in a timely fashion, sometimes you've got to have those conversations of when you're going to order something. We can order a fire truck right now and it might take a year to get here. That's just what we're dealing with the supply chain. All of these play into the safety of the township and our #1 job to keep residents safe.
So we're talking about developing sustainable funding and resources, trying to support law enforcement, fire safety, and other priorities. Ms. Bobber.
So again, I will have to say that public safety is a very important responsibility for the trustees, and if we have to be fiscally responsible, we have to keep our tax dollars coming in, tax dollars low, and make sure that we are spending on not overspending on things that we don't have to. So I feel that, paying our EMS and our staff competitively is also important to keep our community safe and keep the forces, all these forces working effectively.
Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll add that it is really important as a trustee to constantly reevaluate the number of staff you do have on your police force. We're a growing township. It's a conversation that we have yearly, and at this point, probably bi-yearly. Do we have enough police? What does it look like with our cruisers? Is our technology up to date? What are we doing to make sure that we impact the public with having the right amount of police? And I would like to say that all of our funds right now are revenue over expenses. There's not a fund that we're worried about in the township, including fire, including police.
Ms. Bobber, would you like to move on to the next topic, or do you have something to say?
No, we can move on.
Okay, well, we're going to start with you on this one, and we're going to go with 2 minutes on this, not 60 seconds, but you have a full 2 minutes to answer this one. And we're talking about, within Deerfield, you have the development and activation of the district of Deerfield, the town center, Kingswood Park, Cattell Park. Within Mason, you have Kings Island, Great Wolf Lodge, that all-important downtown Mason Mile that we've talked about for many years, what to do with that, the thriving brewery scene. How do you feel we should go about creating better connectivity between the business districts and the neighborhoods in the Made region to create a regional destination and hub, not just for Deerfield, but for the entire Mason-Deerfield area?
So I actually did not quite understand this question about maintaining a hub. Not sure what that means.
Kind of making it a destination area, where people
would come and enjoy.
Right, enjoy a little bit of, instead of just coming for one thing and leaving, you offer so many different things here in this community.
Well, we're already getting the District 1 in here. We're also expanding to get into the Dorothy Lane in Mason. We already have multiple parks over here, so I believe that addition of and the Deerfield Town Center, we have a lot of these places that is really attracting a lot of other people to come over in our area and enjoy the parks, enjoy the restaurants, enjoy the town center. So I believe that we are really working hard towards that. I'm not sure if there's room to add any more spaces because we have to maintain a balance between our business development and our residential development. So having all these festivities and all these places that we already have, I believe that I would at this time continue to invest in those and make them more attractive to people from outside our community also.
Ms. Hadding?
So in the township, we have a connectivity path plan, and that plan is something that we work off of yearly as situations arrive, when we can find funding, grants, partnerships to connect not just neighborhoods, but neighborhoods into our business district into our entertainment district, and even in areas of the township where typically connectivity hasn't been a priority because the township was built in a time where people weren't walking, they were driving everywhere. These are conversations that we have with our residents, not even yearly, I'm talking daily. I just left a meeting in Landon where I got to talk about the connectivity that's going to happen over the 71 bridge, through the Anthem parking lot, down Irwin Simpson into the town center. This is something people have been asking about for years. It takes timing, it takes patience, it takes partnerships. So when ODOT comes and says, we're gonna work on this 71 bridge, we start applying for and looking for safe grants that we can apply to get people to walk over the bridge, through the park, through Anthem, into the town center. The connectivity from our business district was put in the year I was elected. We connected all of the sidewalks back in Duke Boulevard and Parkway down to the Deerfield Town Center. It's helpful to have that connectivity. Somebody might want to walk over at lunch. They might want to walk over for a hot yoga class right there in the plaza. But connectivity through our business district is there right now, and it's only going to get stronger when the district comes online, because we're going to connect the district with the Deerfield Town Center. So whereas we're we're using the district at Deerfield to become an economic hub, it will help the town center if people come in there and are able to walk over to the Deerfield Town Center. They're offering different things to different groups of people that are coming in. They're offering retail versus entertainment, but without the connectivity, they might go to one and not the other.
This wasn't a question on this list here tonight, but I'm just curious in your opinion. This is probably something that we're going to bring up tomorrow night for Mason City Council. But you live here. You live in Deerfield, Mason area, I would assume, and you care about everything that happens in this region. The business district, Two Cities Pizza's in there now, and that business has proven that you can respect the history of Mason by not putting big neon signs and crazy stuff. They've come in there respecting the history of the area. People, you see on a Sunday, families sitting out there having a great time. And yet there are people like me who on Friday and Saturday night go to Hamilton, go to Milford, go to Loveland, but there aren't a lot of options. And again, this is something for tomorrow night, but I think people would be interested in your opinion because we're talking about economic development. What would you like to see as somebody who lives in this area done with that Mason Mile, that Mason Business District? Or are you happy with it the way it is? I know there are people on both sides that feel strongly about it.
So what I personally like is the walkable areas where you can like park your car and walk around and walk to different like parks, walk to different restaurants, walk to the movie theater, walk to the shopping mall and to the restaurants. And that's how, and you know, we also have some residential areas close by where you would like to walk to, instead of driving, you would like to walk to those areas. That's what I feel. I like to live in a place where I can walk, and I like how, like, you know, the Beacon Hill condominiums are. They back into that little strip mall where there's a lot of restaurants and some office spaces and some small workout places.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel that that's an important part of our community to make it more walkable. Of course, it can't be done to everyone because, again, Deerfield is relatively big, and, you know, but if I was to drive to one place and then walk to a lot of these places, that's what I would like to happen anywhere, even in the Mason Mile.
And again, we can't have our hands in everything, but
Right.
as somebody who lives here, what would you like to see done with that area down there?
Well, I would like to say it's Mason, it's not Deerfield.
No, I know.
But I've been watching from afar as the Maid Chamber and their CID it's a CID for you, Sherry, I think, or CID. I've been watching from afar as they're putting together their meetings, as they're getting public feedback. 109 people showing up to offer feedback on what they would like to see as Mason residents on the Mason Miles. Quite impressive. You can beg people to come to meetings and be involved, and it's really hard to get people out. They're busy. Everybody's busy with their children and the things that they've got going on. So I think it is incredibly impressive what I see Mason doing to try to engage the community, to see what the community wants for that area. It could not be overstated that 109 people don't typically show up for meetings to offer you feedback, and that should be applauded.
Okay, since we're talking about connectivity, I just was curious in what you thought about that. So we're moving on here. We're going to begin this one with Ms. Bobber. 60 seconds to respond, and then 30 seconds additional if you'd like for a rebuttal. What's the role of the Deerfield Township trustees with respect to keeping businesses economically viable in the township, and how do you intend to step into that role, Ms. Bobber?
So first of all, we need to understand the needs of the local businesses, and, you know, ensure that we have qualified staff to understand the needs and bring over the concerns to the Board of Trustees, and then be able to make decisions. And we also need to keep in mind that we have to follow like certain Ohio and certain federal laws. Keeping in mind, then we will work further to make sure that we listen to the needs of our community. We need to listen to our residents and to our businesses and be personally available to them, and then move on from there onwards.
Your thoughts?
Well, we have an economic development director that we brought in the first year that I was elected, And it has been one of the most important hires that we've made, if not the most important hire. As Deerfield continues to grow and businesses continue to spring up, we really needed somebody to have eyes on businesses and different kinds of businesses at all times. So he's plugged in with all of our county partners in regards to Ready, Cincinnati, and the Ohio Chamber, the Warren County Chamber Association, the Small Business Association, and we go out and do visits. If you are getting the right, if you're asking the right questions and you're getting the right answers, you know well in advance if you're retaining your businesses or if you're recruiting businesses or if businesses are just looking for a different space in Deerfield. So although we can't necessarily make them economically viable, the free market will do that, we can set them up for success by giving them every opportunity that we have here in the township to service them along with our Warren County partners.
Would you like to use your 30 seconds? No? And okay. So before we go to closings, just one more thing. You're both so passionate about the area, otherwise you wouldn't be running, so I appreciate that. This is not a trick question or a gotcha, but what is the thing you love most about living in this area, Deerfield? What is the thing you like most about Deerfield Township? And if you were given the ability to wave a magic wand and get rid of something that you just did not like in Deerfield, you think, I need to change that right now, what would that be? We could start with you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. It's easy to say I love Deerfield, but I really want to break that down. I love the families in Deerfield. I love the community in Deerfield. I love that in 2017, a bunch of people that didn't know each other got together to form a group to save a park. I love that we still talk to each other to this day. I love that I know people's stories from all over the township, and I know when they're going through a difficult time and I can reach out to them. And I know that it breaks my heart when I knock on doors right now and an elderly person's not there any longer. I love serving the families in Deerfield because I want their families to stay in Deerfield. I want their kids to stay in Deerfield. I want them to find that this is the place that when they move away from, because it's just not cool enough, that they move back to, because we've made it good for them. We've given them amazing parks, incredible parks programming across multi-generations of residents here in Deerfield. We've kept their taxes low. We have incredible emergency services. And really, I can't think of what I would change. I love working every day. I find it a great privilege every day to think about a job that allows me to improve somebody's quality of life, somebody's quality of place, and somebody's quality of opportunity. And really, I can't top that. I can't top doing this in the way I feel about being able to serve the community, whether it's helping with stormwater in somebody's backyard due to a development, whether it's walking a property line, whether it's filling a pothole for somebody. I'm not physically out there doing it. I'm getting it done, mind you. But there's great satisfaction in knowing people, really knowing people. And the people of Deerfield, they know who to call when they have a problem. They know my number, they have it, they use it, they're comfortable with it, and you just cannot know how much that means to me.
Ms. Baba, is there something that you'd like to talk about as far as what you love about Deerfield Township? And then maybe something, if you could change it immediately.
So I moved into this area like in 1992. I lived across from Field Turtle Road in Sims Township. As you know, that's just right across the street. So I saw this whole area develop like profoundly in the last 30 years. And that was very, very eye-opening. I loved when Deerfield Town Center was opened up. You know, I didn't have to go to Kenwood Mall anymore. I really enjoyed coming here. I really liked when all these, restaurants opened up. I fully enjoyed them. I moved into Deerfield Township 8 years ago as of yesterday. And I really liked the fact that I lived in a neighborhood where I had friendly people. I was actually a member of my HOA association, and I connected with a lot of neighbors, and I joined a lot of gymnasiums in the area, and I really enjoyed talking to people. And I loved the sunflower farm that was right across from Cotel Park, and I was very disappointed when it was gone a couple of years ago. And I really think that if I am the trustee, I will do everything in my power to bring something like that again, because I really know a lot of people enjoyed it. It was a highlight of our area. People from far off would come and see that. I mean, I worked in Fairfield at the time, and people over there talked about that farm, the sunflowers. So that was one thing that I really enjoyed. I really want to add a lot more. I mean, I know we have a lot of green space, and I want to expand the green spaces, but I am a very big flower person. I like to add a lot more flower beds to our green spaces too, to make it look as pretty as it could be and make it the best in the area. I want to really make Deerfield Township the best township in the entire state of Ohio. And, you know, the one thing that I would certainly like to change would be that the Mason-Montgomery Road is too crowded. We need to do something to make the traffic more smoother. Sometimes in the rush hour, you know, it can take you a long time to go from point A to point B. That's one of the things that I would certainly like to change. And I also feel that when you're coming, you know, years ago when I used to live in Sims Township, we would take 71, I would take 71, the exit 19 to come off, and oh my God, it was so crowded, and they changed it. And then they later on added the 71, the 19B, I guess, which would bring you straight to Mason-Montgomery Road. I know at the corner they added some like space where they added some flowers, some little decorative areas. I like to do more of that kind on Mason-Montgomery Road. I think right when you come off of the exit, there isn't much. It's pretty just rough grass and not much growing there. So I like to make that part really more prettier.
So a vote for Miss Bobber is a vote for flowers.
Mike, may I have?
Sure, you have 30 seconds.
So Nabila will love this. Then we moved forward a few months back with the beautification project here in Deerfield. It's something that's been near and dear to my heart in regards to not just understanding where our gateways are and making them a more pleasurable thing and living up to Mason's standards of beauty around here. But our beautification project really looks at these spaces that maybe can be unattractive. And you'll see that the lot that used to be a gas station on Mason Montgomery leading up to the slip ramp there, right now it's green. We did that. We held on to that lot. Not only is it green, but it would be the first place that you'll see the beautification, so Nabila can find flowers and shrubs and a gateway sign and stuff right there.
And that's interesting that you both bring that up, because there is a dividing line sometimes when you're driving. You can tell where Mason ends and Deerfield begins, and I'm glad you both brought that up because that's something that people want to hear. So now let's go to closing statements. We have 60 seconds for each of you. Since we had just been alternating and I got off on those other two questions, I'm going to start with Ms. Bobber on this one. So you have 60 seconds for your closing statement, and thanks in advance for being here tonight. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I will just say that I'm very excited to run for this race, and I do want to bring my experience and my scientific background to this office. I've been in private practice for a long time, and I've been very responsibly able to balance my budget and keep my staff happy. So I want to, again, bring that experience over to the residents of Deerfield Township also. I'm very passionate. I'm very resilient. I've gone through adversity, and I've, you know, stood up and worked through the adversity, and I think I know that I can work through any problems, any issues, and my kids are grown. My son is gonna be 30 tomorrow, so I don't have any other responsibilities besides being a doctor and a trustee.
Thank you very much. Ms. Heading, 60 seconds.
I don't know if I can do it in 60 seconds. I'm going to try. I think we live in a very vibrant and safe township, but we also live in a very, very happy township. There is no drama in Deerfield. Typically, if there were drama, people show up at meetings and they want you to know about it, but there is none. And when I knock on the doors asking people, do you love living in Deerfield? It's always a resounding yes. There's nothing that they love more than having somebody knock on their door and ask them, do you love living here? If not, what can we do? What can we improve? And they don't have anything on their list. We are a township that listens to people. Transparency was my #1 goal coming in. We've accomplished that. Increased communication, a huge priority. Our township talks more to our residents than any place I could ever imagine talking to our residents. But the thing is that we listen. We listen to what they say and we act on their behalf because we're a service organization and we are here to serve the residents of Deerfield Township. It has been an absolute privilege and blessing, and I'm awed that I've been able to do it for 6 years, and I humbly ask for everybody's vote come November 7th.
Thank you both. Very likable people, passionate, and I really appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks for your dedication and your willingness to serve our community. The Chamber would also like to thank Huber Flagel, who sponsors the Chamber's advocacy programs and makes events like this tonight possible. A reminder to folks out there, the forum's available through ICRC-TV, the Made Chambers website and Facebook pages, and we encourage the community to get out and vote on November 7th. And I have a strange request. Don't move. I'm going to get a picture, and I'm going to put it on the news tonight on Channel 5, just because I want to show folks that there are people like you out here who want to make a difference, okay? So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Will you take a picture for me?